going to have our lesson, and you guys are going to be videotaped again. Oh, get used to it.
No.
Right?
No.
So, who here actually went on the website? You did? Did you guys actually watch it again?
No.
Yeah, but my mom. Oh, I didn't know my mom. What's the website again?
I'll give your parents your parents hello parents paper. It's blue today. It's gonna say the website, okay? So they'll be able to look through it.
Why is mom and dad are gonna
This one's just an extra copy.
kill me?
All right, you guys. I have a couple of announcements. I have 2 announcements. So next Saturday, we will be getting ready and prepping for Ishmael's fundraiser for World Vision, okay? And we'll be making baked goods. So for those who will be coming and attending, it'll be at noon, so at 12 o'clock, and lunch will be provided. All right, so around 12 to 4 p.m., okay? We'll prepare. Who here thinks that they will attend?
Saturday?
Yes, next Saturday.
Oh, I always attend. Miss Sujin?
Yes?
I'm gonna leave early because I have basketball.
Okay, that's totally fine. All right, so it'll be from noon to around 4-ish, okay? And then that following Sunday, we will then have our bake sale, where we will have our bake sale where we will be getting donations to support our friend in Kenya. Alrighty, guys. My next announcement is today at 1 o'clock we guys have catechism again. So for those who are still at church and then I know you guys start violin at 1:30. Yes? For those who have violin, I still want you guys to stay for 30 minutes. And then you guys can go to violin class at 1:30, okay? So we will start catechism at 1 o'clock and it'll be till 2 p.m. For those violin children, you guys can stay for 30 minutes and then I will dismiss you guys at 1:30 to go to violin. Sounds good? All right, 1 o'clock. All right, guys, let's go into our message now. Is it videotaping? Okay.
No.
Okay. It's recording. Okay. All right, you guys. Let's hope that this stays. Okay, guys, so today's lesson is God takes no pleasure in evil. God takes no pleasure in evil. So we've been learning about this whole thing about God and how God's providence is over evil. When we say that God's providence is over evil, what does that exactly mean?
Evil.
What does that exactly mean? Yes, Kira?
It means that God does evil because good will come out of it.
Does God actually do evil though? God actually does not directly do evil, but God does allow evil to happen. God does ordain evil to happen so that good can come out of it. God morally cannot do evil, okay? But like we said, God has a leash on Satan, and God has a leash on Satan, and God has a leash on evil. Therefore, he allows evil to happen in his own boundaries of where he allows it to happen, but he does not allow it to go more than what he wants to go. Okay, so God does ordain evil, but he morally does not do evil, and that evil is used for his glory, so that good can come out of it, like he said. With that said, God takes no pleasure in evil. God does not like evil. Okay, he takes no pleasure in it. And you guys are going to say, what? How does that work? How does that work, Miss Sujin? So I want to give you guys an illustration. Can you go to the next one? Okay? So here we have a wedding. Okay, here we have a wedding. Who have seen your mom and dad's wedding pictures? Have any of you guys seen your mom's and dad's wedding pictures?
My mom plays the piano for weddings.
Alrighty. So some of you guys have seen your mom and dad's wedding pictures. And if you guys have ever been to a wedding is usually a very, very happy moment, right? It's a joyous moment. It's an awesome occasion where a lot of people are happy, a lot of people are excited. But let me ask you, do you think there's any sadness in weddings?
No.
Yes.
Who here thinks there's sadness in weddings? Who here thinks there's only joy in weddings? Okay? For those who say there's sadness in weddings, why do you guys say so? Anna?
Because the parents cry when they have to take their daughter away.
Very good. So sometimes the parents cry. A lot of times it's the daughter, the bride that cries with the parents when she does. If you guys go to traditionally Korean weddings, the groom and the bride usually bow to their parents. Okay, and at that moment where the bride is bowing to her parents, you see the bride starting to cry, and you see the mom starting to cry, and then you see her dad starting to cry. Okay? And so you just see all the cry because this is a way of them letting their daughter go. All right. So as much as a wedding is a happy moment, there are sad moments. Who else says why are weddings sad? Teacher Adrian.
Maybe there's another person who loves one of them.
Teacher Adrian is a little dramatic. He watches too many Korean dramas, but he's saying maybe there's somebody. Maybe there's somebody out in the crowd that loves the bride, and the guy is like, she should have been my bride, right? What else, Justin?
Not the happy, the joy is they're so happy that they cry.
Okay, you're so happy that they cry. All right, is that gonna be you, Justin, in your wedding? Yes, it will be.
Yeah,
You're gonna cry.
Yes,
You love your bride. Okay, Chiyun, what about you?
Before they married, like a long time ago, their parents might have died, and they might remember that their parents died.
Right, so they might have thought about some past memories in their families. Okay, yes, Anna.
They cried because there's an embarrassing photo of them in the slideshow.
Okay, so they might be horrified that they found baby pictures of them, right? What else? Last one, David.
They don't cry in this one. It's happy.
Okay.
But some people, if they sometimes they cry because since they were so hungry because the wedding reception it's like 2 hours. They cry because they want to go eat.
That's probably only you.
Me.
and the other kids, right? And the babies.
So is that
Okay.
Oh, I love Susie.
All right, you guys. All right, shh. You guys, remember, we're being taped, okay? I want you guys to be on your best behavior. So, there are different moments. The bride can be moving away from her family, or both of them, the husband and the bride, will be moving away from their parents, okay? Or just, there could be just different reasons, okay? Or not living with their family anymore. So, is it possible, let me ask you guys this, is it possible to be happy? Is it possible to be happy and sad at the same time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, right? It is possible to be happy and sad at the same time. And just the way that we can be happy and sad at the same time as at a wedding, all right? Just like how we can be happy and sad at a wedding, God can be filled with joy, but God can also be filled with grief, okay? God can be filled with joy, but God can be filled with grief, which means God can be filled with happiness, but He can also be sad. I want us to go to the next one, please. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to read the story of the death of Lazarus. Who here knows this story? Okay. Who's Lazarus' sisters? Chiyun.
Mary and
Just with another M.
Martha.
Mary and Martha. So Mary and Martha are Lazarus' sisters, okay? And Lazarus is Jesus' friend. So Jesus actually loves Lazarus very, very much. So we're going to go over the story of Lazarus' death. Can you guys turn, if you guys have your Bibles, turn to John 11. John is in the what testament? New Testament, and it is part of the what? Part of the
Bible.
It's one of the books of the Gospels. So John 11. Who is there?
Wait, second John? First John?
No, John.
No, just John.
Just
Oh.
John. You're way too far into the Bible if you're at first.
Yeah.
Yes.
How come Lazarus looks even creepier than other pictures?
Because Lazarus was once dead.
His eyes are black.
Okay, guys.
Oh yeah, it is.
Got it.
No, I got that.
Miss Kathleen, can you turn the light over there? I don't have the lights here.
Thank you.
Okay, guys.
I got it.
Thank you. I'm just going to read it. So if you guys can follow along, all right. Your version and my version might be a little different.
Mine is NIV.
The death of Lazarus. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, This illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 nights longer in the place where he was. Then, after this, he said to the disciples, Let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and you are going there again? Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in a day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. After saying these things, he said to them, Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. Now Jesus has spoken of his death, but they thought that he meant taking rest in sleep. So do the disciples know what's going on? No, they're like, Jesus, where are we going to go? He's just asleep, okay? Now Jesus has spoken of his death, but they thought that he meant taking rest and sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died, and for your sake I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. So Thomas, called the twin, who is a disciple, said to his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him. Okay, that we may die with him. Alrighty, you guys. So, what does Jesus say about Lazarus' death? All right. It says it in verse 4. What is the reason for Lazarus' death? Chiyun.
Lazarus' death will not. Lazarus' sickness will not lead to death.
But
It will lead to God's glory.
very, very good. So Lazarus' death, okay? Jesus had a purpose. Jesus had a good purpose. If we said that God ordains all things, Jesus had a purpose in Lazarus' death. It was not to bring suffering onto Lazarus, right? Lazarus did have to suffer by dying. But what was it for? What was that suffering used as, June?
God's glory.
For God's glory, okay? Very, very good. So God actually planned this all to happen. God ordained this all to happen, okay? God ordained Lazarus to die. But what do we know? This is all for God's glory. So let's continue, okay? Verse 17. Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him. But Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would have not died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection of the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, Though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. All right, who's coming into this world. Let's continue. When she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, The teacher is here. Who's the teacher?
Jesus.
Jesus, okay? The teacher is here and is calling for you. And when she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now, when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would have not died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. So the Jews said, See how he loved him? But some of them said, Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying? Okay? So we see that Jesus had a good plan in the sickness of Lazarus, and he planned to show his own glory through the sickness of Lazarus. Okay, we see that in verse 4. And this is also Jesus' plan to raise Lazarus from the dead. Let me ask you guys this. How long has Lazarus been dead?
4 days.
For 4 days, okay? It's not like Jesus accidentally waited, all right? It's not like he took like too long to raise Lazarus from the dead and to heal him, all right? But he planned for Lazarus to die. He planned him to die, so that after 4 days when someone's dead, you can kind of know, man, that person's really dead, right? So everybody, including Mary and Martha, they knew that Lazarus was dying. So it was a complete understanding that Lazarus was dead because he's been in the tomb for 4 days, okay? So the suffering of Mary, who here is suffering? There's Mary, who else is suffering? Martha, because they're both grieving for their brother. And the suffering of who else?
Jesus.
Jesus, okay? But
Jews.
of the Jews, but Lazarus, okay? So the suffering of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, and all his friends that are mourning over Lazarus. This was all planned by God. So Jesus could have prevented their grief, right? Jesus could have prevented their grief. He could have not allowed this to happen, but he chose not to. Jesus allowed this suffering to happen, okay? But for a reason. Can I have someone read me verse? Okay, we'll go to the next one. Verse 11, John 11, verse 32 to 35. Anna?
When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would have not died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him, he asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied. Jesus wept.
So Jesus wept, right? So is Jesus sad in this situation?
Yes.
Jesus is sad in this situation. But like how at weddings we can be both sad and happy, this is a time where Jesus, he was sad. He was very sad to see the suffering of his friends, okay? But he was also joyful. Why? Why do you think Jesus was joyful? This is the time of a man who's dead, but why in the world can Jesus be joyful? Stella, what is it?
Is that because he can show them that what he can do?
Very good. He's showing them what? He's showing them his glory, right? So he knows that his glory will be displayed in the situation, okay? So that is why, everybody face front. That is why Jesus is joyful in this occasion, but he's also very, very sad, okay? He's touched by the sorrow of Mary and Martha and Lazarus' friend. He's grieving over their sorrow, okay? So let's continue to verse 36 to 44. This is a lot of reading today, okay? Verse 36 to 44. So the Jews said, wait, I'm sorry, not 36 to 44. So the Jews said, see how he loved him? And some of them said, could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, take away the stone. Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you have sent me. When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen stripes, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to him, unbind him and let him go. Unbind him and let him go. So Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead, showing the power of God, the greatness of God, and the love and the care of God, and also God's victory over death and evil. So God's good purpose was to show his greatness and worth. He allowed the suffering to happen to show his greatness and worth. So God is now joyful. God is happy in demonstrating his glory. But he also weeps with those who are weary. He also weeps with those who are suffering. Therefore, God does not take pleasure in suffering. Okay, that's the title of today. God does not take pleasure in suffering. All right? But God also is joyful because his glory will be displayed. Okay, guys, can we go to the next one? All right. Let me just ask you guys this. What kind of miracles are most of Jesus' miracles? What kind of miracles were most of Jesus' miracles? What did he do? A lot of miracles, but there is one kind that he did the most while he walked on this world. Gia, do you know?
Raising people from the dead.
Raising people from the dead, he's done that with Lazarus, but he's also done different things. So this is also a part of it, right? What did he do to the blind man?
Let him see.
Let him see. What did he do with the man that was lame, that couldn't walk?
Let him walk.
Let him walk. What did he do with the man that was, the little girl who was sick and dead?
He healed her.
Very good. So, okay.
He healed.
What was the different miracles that Jesus did? What was the miracle that he did the most?
He healed people.
Very good. It was the miracle of healing, okay? It was the miracle of healing. Can we go to the next one? All right? It's the miracle of healing, okay? So this is how we know that God does he doesn't take any pleasure in evil, okay? God, he does not delight in suffering, but he only allows suffering to happen when it is necessary, okay? Because you see in his days when he was doing his own ministry, he healed people, okay? He did not make people suffer, but he did a lot of healing, okay? That was a lot of the miracles he did. He was there to relieve the suffering. So God does not allow suffering to happen unless if it is used for his glory and unless if it is necessary, okay? Can we go to the next one now? All right, guys. So we have a picture here of a needle, and we also have a picture here of a sword, okay? Who here has ever got like a splinter?
What was that?
Or like
a wood,
a piece of wood on your hand? Also translated in Korean, gashi. Gashi. Okay? So a lot of you guys, maybe you guys were playing outside, maybe you guys were like climbing trees, I don't know. Maybe you guys were like raking the leaves without gloves. And some of you guys are like, there's a piece of wood in my finger, okay? So you go to your dad or you go to your mom and you show them, I got something stuck in my finger, right? What do they usually use to take it out? Anna?
A nail clipper.
A nail clipper, okay. What else? A needle, okay.
A nose hair picker.
So let me ask this. Would it be necessary to use a sword?
No.
Okay? It is only necessary to use a needle, alright? It was only necessary to use a needle, right? Right? So you'll cut your finger off. Your parents will cut your finger off if they use a sword.
So Miss Sujin, they will help you, they'll show you.
Tell me, you guys, why do you think they're gonna take it out? To do what? To prevent what? To prevent infections, okay? So they know that they have to take it out. Who here remember being so scared when you had it and you're like watching your parents and you're like every time they get closer you're like pulling away? Who's done that? Right? So you guys get scared. I remember that too when I was a little girl. I would get so scared every time it was usually my dad who would do it because my mom was kind of, she would get scared for me. So it was my dad that did it. And I would always get scared every time he comes closer and closer, okay? But they're doing this so that we won't get an infection, okay? And then rather than using a needle, or rather than using a sword, they use a needle, okay? I want you guys to understand that even though we don't like pain is oftentimes necessary, all right? Pain is oftentimes necessary, okay? Even though your parents don't like you guys to suffer, right? They don't like to do that to you, okay? It's the same way. God does not like us to suffer. However, He understands that suffering is necessary, okay? That suffering is necessary for a purpose. For a purpose. Just like how your parents don't like to see you get suffering from taking the splitter out of your hand, they know it's necessary because the purpose is you guys won't get an infection, okay? Adela, how am I forgetting? All right, you guys. Can we go to the next one? All right. Can somebody turn to 2 Samuel 24? The story of David and David's census. Who here knows what a census is? Who here has been to civics class yet?
What?
Anyone know what census is? A census? When I say I'm taking a census, what does that mean?
A test?
An apology?
So the government actually takes a census on us. I don't know how many years.
I found it.
Any of the teachers, do you guys know how many years census the government takes a census on us? I guess not. I guess we're not educated enough.
What is a census?
Okay, what's census? So a census is a count. Is a count of how many people, okay? So like how the United States government takes a census on us after, I don't know how many years, but they take a census on us. David took a census. All right, King David took a census, okay, on how many people, on how many soldiers he had. So he was counting how many soldiers he had. However, God prohibited from taking the census. Okay? God did not want David to take the census. All right?
Why not?
Why not? That's a good question. Why not? If God knew how many men, if God knew how many soldiers were out there, would God depend on the amount of soldiers to win, or would God depend more on God? I mean, would David depend more on God? Okay? So I'm going to ask you one more time. If you guys knew how many soldiers there were, all right, would you have more faith because you knew you had a lot of soldiers, or should you have more faith on depending on God? Depending on God, right? So David taking a census, by David's action of taking a census, it kind of shows that David was depending on how many soldiers he had, rather than winning the victory by the faith of knowing that God is with him, okay? So, God was very, very angry at him. So God gave him 3 options. because David sinned, God gave him a choice of punishment, okay? Actually, I don't know the screen. So he gave him choice of punishments, okay? And he allowed David to choose. The choice of punishments were 3 years of famine, all right? 3 years of famine, 3 months of fleeing from their enemies, okay? 3 years of famine, put it away. 3 years of famine, 3 months of fleeing from their enemies, or 3 days of plague. David chose to fall into the hands of God rather than the hands of man because God's mercy is great. So let's see what he said. Can someone read to me 2 Samuel? Can you go to the next one? Can someone read to me 2 Samuel verse 24 to 16? Let's see what happens. Justin?
So the Lord sent a plague on Israel from that morning until the end of the time
Designated?
And 70,000 of people from Dan to Beersheba died. When the angel stretched out his hand to destroy Jerusalem, the Lord relented concerning the disaster and said to the angel who was afflicting the people, "Enough, withdraw your hand."
Okay, very, very good. So what did David choose?
Fire.
He chose the plague, right? He chose the plague.
What's a plague?
What's a plague, you guys?
Please. It's water turning into blood. Cows dying. Something
Okay.
like that.
So it's a lot of people died from this plague. Okay, a lot of people got sick. A lot of people died from this plague. So this is 3 days of the plague. Okay. So why did David choose this? Chien?
Because he knew rather than the hands of man, he knew that it would be better because God is merciful.
Very good. So rather than being punished by his enemies and rather being punished in the hands of man, he knew that it would be better to be punished by God because God is what?
Merciful.
Because God is merciful. Okay? Because God is merciful. So David chose to receive the punishment of a plague. But I want you guys to note this. This evil grieves God, and he only punishes because it is necessary, okay? Evil grieves God, but he only punishes because it is necessary. So God is very selective in evil, okay? He allows in the world. He only allows certain evil to happen. He restrains evil to happen continuously. So if God's hand was not on evil, if God's providence was not on evil, do you guys know that more evil would be happening in this world?
Yeah.
Okay? Because God's providence is over evil, we're not going crazy and we're not like killing each other. Okay? You guys know that? Because if God's providence wasn't over evil, there will be greater evil happening in this world. But God does use that evil to accomplish his good purpose, okay? He allows it to happen for his own good purpose. All right, guys. So, what holiday is coming up?
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day. All right, guys. I want you guys to understand this. Okay. I want you guys to understand that even though we go through difficulties, there's some people in here that's going through different difficulties in their life. Maybe you guys have a grandparent that's sick, or maybe you guys are worried about your grades in school, or maybe you guys have just have moved and not know many people, or many of you guys might be stressed out about other things, okay? I want you guys to know that there's a lot of difficulties that may be going on in our lives and in other people's lives, but we need to remember the heart of God, okay? We need to remember David.
We're back to the homeschool.
You don't need to do that, all right? We need to remember the heart of God. And who here can turn to Lamentations chapter 3, verse 31 to 33. I want you guys to know this. Whenever we go through difficulties and suffering, this is a good verse to go to. Can somebody read this to me loud and clear? Verse 3, verse 31 to 33. You there, Yumi?
Yeah.
Okay, can you read verse 31 to 33 loud and clear?
For men are not cast down by the Lord forever. Though he brings grief, you will show compassion so great. It's so great, it's his unfailing love, that he does not willingly bring
Affliction?
affliction or grief to the children.
Okay? So I want you guys to understand that God's heart is one for the love of his people, okay? He is great in mercy. He is great in mercy and is grieved when we are grieved. All right? So God's heart is with us. When there's difficulties going around, I want you guys to know that God takes no pleasure in suffering and that he does grieve us. But what do we know? In our suffering, what will happen? God's glory will be displayed. Okay? So let us hold faith into that more and more every day. All right, guys? So let's pray. Let's pray and go to our classes. Can we turn off the thing, please?